Dave, welcome back to another segment in our wood technology series, man.
Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate it. In the Pacific Northwest, I don't know how many mills are left that can really do those old growth, bigger logs. I think a lot of them have tooled down to maybe they do a max 12 inch or 18 inch or 24 inch. But you start looking at those cutting methods you talked about, and it became really clear if we didn't have this boom in engineered lumber products and composites and PVCs and things like that to build with, I thought, the cedar supply, and granted, it's still fairly rare, hard to get, and expensive, but where would it be if we didn't have that? So when I was looking at your drawing and listened to your last episode, and you talked about how a log is cut, and with these small log mills, you're not making 5/4 by 12 cedar fascia board very easily out of that. So it just drives that need to edge glue and make it and have a lot of primed and painted materials. So take on that? I mean,
Well, so there's several things that I think are really important in our industry. One is using all the resource. So for instance, I'll backtrack a little bit. Your highest quality logs, they don't get cut up for lumber at all. They go for veneer. So when you think about it, if I take thin slices off that log and I were, say, making conference tables, I could make 1,000 conference tables from a gigantic log, but I may make 100 conference tables from that same log if we're working with solids. So I like the idea of veneer work, okay, especially appearance grade. And then the other thing that we're doing a lot is we're finger joining. So we're finger joining end to end. And so a lot of our millwork, Windsor One, a lot of the finger joining millwork, this is the sort of thing that we're using more and more of, and it's a good use of the resource because we're using short pieces and gluing them together. Now, we can't build structure with that, okay, because it's just not strong enough. But for trim, and a lot of our, what we would look at the outside of a house, this is not structural, this is more decorative. And it's a great use of the resource. So yeah, I agree. These are things that we do. You look at a laminated veneer lumber, basically it's plywood with all the plies going in the same direction. But you're able to order these things very deep, very long, and they're dead straight.
Well, and you come from the remodeling background, and it's super nice to be able to go out and order like 1 3/4 by whatever height LVL you want and potentially replace something or add a little strength. Maybe it allows your client wants, hey, I'd really like this room to be 18 inches wider. It's pretty amazing now. And with the engineering resources we have, and down in Tacoma, we got the APA and all that, they're testing these new technologies all the time. And so what a blessing to make this a sustainable, it's a renewable product. We always talk, wood, concrete, steel, hands down, building with wood. People get worked up about cutting down trees, but you can grow them again, and it stores carbon, and there's such a story. And I know there's some politics to that, but we could focus on facts too.
Well, I'll give you one example that would be good for a local carpenter, okay? Because that was me. Working for a client in Windermere, and she had a series of stairs that it was an open riser stair, and very wide, about 4 feet wide. And there were 14 treads. And when the carpet layers went to take off the old carpet, because the treads were wrapped in carpet, they found wood, but while it was solid, there were a dozen nails in each end. And they had separated from the stair carriage quite a bit. So she came, what are we supposed to do? We can't rewrap it in carpet now because these things, it doesn't even look safe. And she was right. So I decided, well, I'm going to price it. And what I wanted to go for was quarter sawn 2x12s, okay, 4 feet long. And I came up with prices of like $21, $22 per lineal foot. And I'm like, whoa, times 4 treads, 4 feet, you get the idea. So I said, well, what do you got in mixed grain? And then it was about, I think, $13 or $14 per lineal foot. And I'm like, what else you got? And then one of your lumber people said, hey, you could use an LVL. And a laminated veneer lumber, again, plywood that's going in the same direction. And it was 1 7/8 thick. So I eased the edges, wrapped it, put it in with stair cleats, And man, it looks beautiful and it's absolutely solid. So
flat
and straight, and it was easy. And plus there was almost no waste in what I was doing. I kept another one for the school. But that tread worked really well. And we're seeing a lot more of this. For instance, one of the big buzzwords right now is construction laminated timber, or CLT. And they're able to make this, it's like plywood on steroids. I mean, basically each of the lifts may be 1.5 to 2 inches thick, and a lot of softwoods, and again, end glued and everything else, finger joint, but they make these gigantic panels where you've got the wood running in different directions. So again, it's like a gigantic piece of plywood, but they're making these large enough now that instead of going for a 5-story limit, for building a wooden structure, now they're able to go up. I think the one in Portland is either 9 or 11 stories. And it's all because of CLT. And as far as a carbon sink, steel and concrete, the amount of carbon debt that we create is huge. But with these trees used, sliced and diced, and glued back together, we are now able to actually effectively put a carbon sink into a building instead.
Yeah, sequester. You bet. Well, I'm glad we picked up this additional episode. And thanks again for bringing the diagram of the logs. Appreciate it. Thanks, man.